Tyler Stevens had some strong words for Kyle Larson following a run-in between the two drivers at night 4 at the Wild West Shootout. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at John Trent Racing. You can see this over at Flow Racing. Kyle Larson back on track, draws ire of Tyler Stevens at Wild West Shootout. Before we get into what Tyler Stevens actually had to say about Kyle Larson, let's look at why he was upset with Kyle Larson. This is in the fourth heat of the night for night 4 at the Wild West Shootout, which occurred on Friday night. You can see Kyle Larson in that black number 6. Tyler Stevens is in the black and orange number 2 car right there on his outside. This is the Flow Racing replay. It looks like Larson drives into that corner a little too hard and basically takes both of them out. He takes himself out and he takes Stevens out. And it's the last lap of the race. They're racing for 6th. Neither of them are going to lock in for the A-main. You need to be in 4th place to lock in. And so Stevens was not happy about that. But let's take a look and see what exactly happened here. You can see they obviously get connected and then they spin around. It doesn't look like there's a lot of damage to either of the cars, but both of the cars would retire for the rest of the night following this wreck. Larson would go to a backup car and make a run through the B main. He would finish 3rd in the B main and then make a phenomenal run in the A main, going from 22nd to 5th, getting a top 5 finish for the night, whereas Stevens, he was just done for the rest of the night. And so let's listen, or let's look at what he had to say about Kyle Larson. He says, Kyle's a better racer than that, and it's not like we're racing for 2nd or the lead or even a transfer spot. We were both struggling racing for 6th in a heat race, and coming into turn 3, coming to the checkered, he destroys me and tears his car up too. It doesn't make any sense from a racer standpoint why he would do that. From 6th to 7th, it's 1 row in a B main. That's all it was. It's not like it was the end of the world, but instead he runs through me and my car is headed to the car wash in a million pieces. And we have to start from scratch tomorrow. We're a 1-car operation. So Tyler Stevens clearly not happy with the way Kyle Larson raced him at the end of that heat race. And I think justifiably so. That was pretty much uncalled for. No need to junk both of those cars. And Larson does indeed admit that he was at fault. He says, yeah, I'm sure he's mad. He said, and added that his aggressive move gone wrong in the final corner of the heat race, quote, was frustration on my part for being slow. So Larson was taking out his frustration on Tyler Stevens because his car was crap. He had a terrible qualifying run. He was performing awful in the heat race. And so he was obviously frustrated. He had just had a frustrating run at the Chili Bowl the night before, where he saw his night end after wrecking by himself. So probably a lot of frustration being built up, but I don't think he should be taking it out on Tyler Stevens, which it sounds like he's admitting that he did indeed do. But he went on and said he'd been running the top, and I wasn't quite sure if he was going to slide across or stop around the bottom. I was trying to get another spot to move a little forward in the B because we were terrible at that point, and I climbed over his left rear. Stevens also added, I wish he had the decency to come over here and say, hey man, sorry, I didn't mean to get into you, but he won't. I used to have an amazing amount of respect for him, and I respect what he does in a race car 100%, but driving like that in those situations, there's no need for it. Stevens would go on to say, he's talking about he spent 4 hours on Thursday at Southwest Eye Institute where doctors ultimately diagnosed the condition. Wow. So Stevens had a rough day. His anger with Larson on Friday had nothing to do with Wednesday's freak event that nobody can control. He said they had to take a chunk of his cornea out. Wow. That's the problem. If I cover my right eye, it's just a big blur in my left. But with both eyes, I can see well enough to race, no problem. It's not 100% by no means. It's still pretty fuzzy in my right eye. And they said it would be for a couple of weeks. So, wow, Tyler Stevens having a rough week out there at the Wild West Shootout. Not only from a racing perspective, getting his car junked by Kyle Larson, but obviously sounds like they had to do some significant surgery or taking a chunk out of your cornea. That sounds like eye surgery, significant eye surgery, while he's still competing. And he was out there competing then 2 days later. So, wow, kudos to him for getting out there and racing. But I do think his frustration is warranted. Uh, I think he should be mad at Kyle Larson for doing that, especially given the fact that Larson is admitting that he wrecked him because he was frustrated because his car was junk. But I mean, I don't think there's any excuse for that. I mean, I think you need to be a little bit more disciplined than that. I know you're having a tough week. Your chili bowl didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, and obviously, then you were struggling in the heat races here at the Wild West Shootout on night 4. But let me know what you guys think about what Tyler Stevens had to say about Kyle Larson, what Kyle Larson had to say about this. Let me know in the comments below.